The air was thick with this diesel smell, and it was all so noisy, with the big rigs, motors running the air conditioning to keep the pets in the cages cool, and all these dogs going nuts in their cages. We had taken huge risks to rescue all these animals. If you have a sense that there's something meaningful to you that you want to do with your life, now is the time to discover that and start making it happen. Don't die with your potential intact. If there's something great inside of you, and there is something great in all of us, then let's find a way to let it out. Welcome to the Ageless Warrior Lab. I'm BJJ Black Belt and Dirty Dozen member Dave Meyer, here to draw wisdom from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the martial arts and explore how it applies to success in business, relationships, your long-term health, and making the most out of your life. Does your life feel like it has enough meaning? What more would you want to accomplish, and how do you want to be remembered? I'm going to tell you a true story about 100 dogs and cats with hours left to live, a mystery man, and one of the most meaningful sounds I've ever heard. And then we'll talk about making more meaning in your life. It was October 2005, and I was outside of New Orleans, 2 months into the Hurricane Katrina pet rescue that I and Pia Salk and Jane Garrison had been leading. The state of Louisiana had suddenly given the order to close our large makeshift animal shelter that had by then processed thousands of rescued animals. Animal shelters from around the country were tagging pets to be taken to their facilities, but no one was tagging the pit bulls. People said they were aggressive. This left 80 unclaimed dogs and 20 cats. Pia came to me beside herself saying she'd heard that the state was going to euthanize all of the pit bulls the next day. But she said they weren't aggressive, they were just scared. We and hundreds of volunteers who we'd led had taken huge risks to rescue all these animals, and we were not going to let any be put down before they could be truly tested in a calm environment to see if they actually were dangerous. We'd made a commitment to those animals that none would be left behind. So Pia and I made a snap decision for her to place a tag on every cage of every remaining unclaimed animal, which meant that we were committing to taking them into our organization so they wouldn't be killed. Now, we were just a website at the time called 1-800-SAVE-A-PET.com with one paid employee, no office, no animal shelter, no kennels. But all of these pets who had survived Hurricane Katrina with its incredible winds and rain, survived the resulting flood of New Orleans when the levees were breached, survived Hurricane Rita, which came just a few weeks later, and survived being locked and starving in homes until we got to them. They were going to be given all the time they needed to be evaluated properly and given a chance at life, and hopefully to be reunited with their owners if we could find them. We now had exactly 2 days to figure out a way to ship out 100 animals to we had no idea where. We needed a miracle. So on Saturday night of a holiday weekend, I started making calls to animal rescue groups and humane societies around the country. I got in touch with a friend of mine named Bobby Durafashar in Los Angeles, who said he could arrange an army of volunteers and foster caregivers to be at the airport in Los Angeles in 48 hours if I could get the animals there. He connected me with Tia Torres of Villalobos Rescue Center, a fantastic pitbull rescue organization that was the subject of the long-running TV show Pitbulls and Parolees. And she said she could help, but she'd need $30,000 to hastily construct new facilities and hire new staff, as the pitbulls, if not claimed by their families, would likely be with her for a very long time. I put the word out to everyone I knew about renting an airplane. Now, I'd never done anything like this. I didn't know how this could even possibly be done on short notice like this on holiday weekend, and how we could ever pay for it. And then a miracle. I get a call from this mystery guy named Bill with a thick Texas accent. He had heard that I needed a plane to save some animals and said if I could get the pets to this local airstrip outside of New Orleans on Monday morning, there would be a cargo plane there to take them anywhere in the U.S. I had never met Bill. I had never heard of him. He had never met me. He said it would cost $50,000 for the flight, and he would have to trust me that I'd pay it. He told me to get every single animal in need onto that plane. Bill was a man of action and an animal lover, my kind of guy. Then, after a series of rapid-fire phone calls, I was able to find two funders to cover the $80,000 I needed to make this all happen. So between Pia tagging all of the animals' cages, two funders covering the cost of the transport and housing, Bobby gathering his volunteers ready to receive animals at the airport, Tia frantically making space at her pit bull sanctuary for possibly aggressive pit bulls, we then arranged 18-wheelers from the Army to be at the rescue center at 5 a.m. Monday morning and began an in-the-dark procession of these forlorn family pets, one by one, assisted by scores of volunteers with flashlights, into transport crates and onto these trucks. As the sun was rising, we headed off to the airstrip 45 minutes away. The mantra we kept repeating was, "Leave no pet behind." We arrived at the small airstrip, and out of nowhere, in the sky, a DC-9 appeared and landed exactly on time. That guy, Bill, who I've never met or heard of until 24 hours before, and who never even told me his last name, damn it if he didn't come through. We began using a forklift to transfer all the cages with animals from the big rigs into the cargo hold of this empty jet. For a moment, it seemed like there wouldn't be enough space for all the cages on this plane. The air was thick with this diesel smell, and it was all so noisy, with the big rigs, motors running the air conditioning to keep the pets in the cages cool, and all the sounds of the jet engines, and all these dogs going nuts in their cages. We had exactly 80 dogs and 20 cats in individual carrier crates, and we stacked them to the ceiling and strapped them all together tightly. And by another miracle, they all fit into the hull of that plane. They were the last Katrina rescue pets to leave our official makeshift shelter. They were the unwanted ones, but they weren't unwanted. They were wanted by Pia. They were wanted by me, by Bobby, and by Tia, and by every volunteer who bloodied themselves climbing through broken windows to rescue these pets from flooded homes over the prior 8 weeks. The plane closed its doors and fired up the engines. A DC-9 filled to the top with 100 emaciated and scared pets. Now, I've heard airplane engines a million times, to take travelers to do business, to take people on vacation. But the deafening noise of those jet engines, as I was right there beside them on the tarmac, was the best sound I've ever heard. It was the sound of awesome human power being used to save lives. Tears were in all of our eyes, and one of the volunteers told me it was the high point of her life. The plane spun around on the runway and launched into the sky, bolting towards the horizon with its cargo of dogs and cats, one pilot, one co-pilot, and one little powerhouse of a woman named Pia, who just 48 hours before had come to me and got it all started. And as for those 100 animals, every single one was safe and accounted for, and the ones we could reunite with their original owners were eventually reunited. Everybody came through. And by the way, Tia from the pit bull rescue said that none of the pit bulls, not a single one, was aggressive. None were euthanized. None were left behind. That morning, standing on the tarmac, I knew exactly why I was alive. Now, not everybody's going to have those kinds of meaningful experiences in their life, and I certainly don't every day. But meaning also can come from small daily actions. For me, having a life with meaning and working for a cause I believe in is what gets me out of bed in the morning. So what gives you meaning in your life? And importantly, is there something that would give your life meaning that you're not yet doing or working on? I've worked hard my entire life to win world championships, and martial arts is a part of my identity. But what gives me meaning is the work for my nonprofit, helping animals and people. Asking what gives your life meaning is a different question than what makes your life fun or what makes you feel happy or content. It's bigger than that. It's about what makes your life matter. If you can add more meaning to your life, it'll make each day sweeter and fill you with a sense of purpose. I talk with a lot of people about this, and what arises is what I call the 3 layers of meaning. One is what gives your days purpose, which could be acts of kindness or charity for those in need, or even just taking care of your family. Number 2 is what lives on into the future, like building housing for people in need, or starting a nonprofit organization, or working to cure a disease. And number 3 is what will you personally be remembered for? So that would be your legacy. Now, looking at the first layer, things that you do in your moment to give your life meaning, this could be as simple as volunteering a few hours a week for something that you believe in, like helping out a local school or walking shelter pets or something like that. It could be something that you're paid to do, but that you think is really good in the world. Maybe you're a martial arts instructor watching your students get better and grow, and that gives you meaning. And that leads to the second layer, which is what are the things that live on? Even after a martial arts instructor retires, the ripples of all the lives they've touched continue to move out into the world. I interviewed Dan Millman not long ago, and he talked about the importance of being of service to others, and that being of service can show up in small but important ways. Now, technically, the way our economy works, people trade money for something that they want. So if you're doing anything that you're being paid for, then you are being of service to somebody. And that's nice because they need you. But the problem with that is you're only being of service to someone who can afford to pay. So it's good that you recognize whatever your job is, you're probably being of service to somebody, but maybe there's something else you'd find valuable in addition that would help create meaning in your life beyond just doing the work that people pay you for. Buddhists have a concept called right livelihood, which is the fourth of what they call the Eightfold Path. And it means earning your living without causing harm, cruelty, or injustice to humans and animals. It's great to make a living not doing harm. And then in your spare time, as we said, you could volunteer for some nonprofit organization or local community group, or you could donate money to some cause you believe in. For some people, though, they want their actual career, the job for which they're being paid, to be the thing that's doing good in the world for those in need. Most Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructors open schools just to find a way to be paid for doing the thing that they love. But then they discover that they get huge meaning from the lives they're touching and watching people grow in their skills and confidence. If you have a sense that there's something meaningful to you that you want to do with your life, whether it's full-time or as a volunteer, or if there's something important you want to accomplish, now is the time to discover that and start making it happen. Most people don't ask what their life means until they see the end in sight. And then often it's too late to do much about it. So don't be that person. Here's a thought. If you died and your obituary were written today, would you be proud of it? What would you want your obituary to say? Think about it. It's a good exercise to actually write that out. Now, of course, it would say that you're a great mom or dad, or a great husband or wife or sibling, and a great friend to people. But would there be anything else? And would you want to have something else? Would you want to have some other legacy? Legacy is the third layer of meaning. I think everybody wants to be remembered with love by their friends and family. But when it comes to a legacy, we're usually talking about something bigger than that. It could be some accomplishment you've made that will be remembered, or that you served in some important role, or you were the first to do something. Or it could be something enduring that you created, like a company or an invention, or even just some way of doing things. Or it could, in some cases, just be something you paid a lot of money to have your name on that is usually reserved for rich people, like naming a foundation or naming a hospital or something like that. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and in mixed martial arts, at any given time, there are great fighters who are winning championships, and for some period of time, they're sought after and very well known. But as these things go, they eventually retire and someone else emerges to replace them. And when I talk to younger people in the sport about great champions, even just 10 years ago, they usually have no idea who I'm talking about. They don't remember them. But what I've noticed is the people who are remembered in the sport are people who started a martial arts school or started a team or have an association that continues on, or in some cases, someone who invented or made famous some new move that then took on their name. Now, while it's fine to want to be remembered, for me personally, the most important legacy doesn't have anything to do with whether I'm personally remembered or not. I want my legacy to be the impact I had that did good in the world, and I want that impact to continue on after I'm gone. It's not about creating a legacy for the future, but it's all about what I'm doing right now with my limited time left on this planet, and if I'm doing good in the world in a way that will last. This may be something that you think about too. In fact, I'm actually surprised that many people approach me and see that I've been working professionally for something I really believe in for many, many years, and they want to do the same. So let's talk about how to build a life of meaning by doing good in the world, whether you're paid for it or not, and whether you're recognized or remembered for it or not. To do good in the world, you need to know what's important to you. What is good in the world to you? I call this your moral center. What do you value and what do you want to do for the people around you or for the world? What do you want to achieve that will have meaning for you? And are you on track? A lot of people have a feeling that they want to do something good in the world, but they're not really clear on what that good thing they really want to do is. So, one way to figure out what you can spend your time doing that would give you a life of meaning is to look at what you love to do and that you think would have some benefit in the world. But sometimes the better way to figure out what you want to do is to look at the world and say, what do you really hate about it? And what would you be really inspired to work to change? Hating something about the world can be a really great motivator. Is there something going on in your community or in the country or in the world that you feel is worth fighting for, at least metaphorically, to change? And remember, what might seem somewhat radical now, often in the future, when people look back, doesn't seem that radical at all. There was a guy named Benjamin Lay, who was one of the early abolitionists in England in the 1700s. He was doing crazy stunts to get his message out that were viewed as absolutely nuts at the time. But now, when we look back on him, it's clear that he was right about the evils of slavery, and he was just trying to get people's attention for something that was really important. I was raised in a family and in a culture that was always pushing me to do good and do good in the world. I was always involved in charity drives or other activities where we were helping people in the community or raising money for this or that cause. It's funny, but in high school, I played the lead role in a musical called Man of La Mancha, which is about this crazy old guy who's delusional and thinks that he's some sort of a chivalrous knight and needs to save people and joust with dragons. It's a sweet and kind of a sad story, but he really is trying to do good. And there's a song from that play called The Impossible Dream. And one of the lines is, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I remember my best friend Paul seeing the play and saying to me that that was the perfect part for me because he saw some of me in that character. Now, I'd never really thought about it in that way, but I think he was right. Even then, I was ready to fight to make the world a better place. So I encourage you to spend some time thinking about this, to ask yourself, is there some cause, local or global, that you really care about? Something you would like to be working on, whether it be full-time professionally or just as a volunteer a few hours a week in your spare time, but that would really add meaning to your life. It could be small or it could be big, but it needs to speak to what you care about, to your moral center. If there's more than one thing, then just list them all out and pick one. In the last episode, I told the story of a fateful night when there was a death in my family that caused me to reevaluate how I was using what I suddenly realized was a very limited amount of time left on the planet. And I tried to really make it clear in that episode that we don't know how much time we have left. And if there's anything you feel you should do, you should get on it now. And how that realization makes your days feel more important and purposeful. For me, once I decided I wanted to do something to end animal abuse, it started a long process of me figuring out what I could be doing. The first thing I did was call up local animal charities in Los Angeles where I lived and ask them if they needed a really skilled computer guy, because that's what I was doing for a living at the time. And I got a lot of long silences on the phone and quickly discovered, now this was back in the 1980s, that many of these organizations barely had computers at all, so they had no need for my services. But I did get this great bit of advice from one person I spoke to who said, instead of just looking for a job at an animal protection organization, what was it that I really thought I could do that would be helpful to the cause? And when I thought about it that way, the answer I gave was, I think I'm a good communicator, and I think I could just go out and talk to people. And I think I could get them to really think about the ways in which our society treats animals and how that impacts animals and people. And the person said, so why don't you just go out and do that? And that made me realize that I didn't have to quit my day job to start having an impact. So I wrote up a presentation I would give for free in my spare time to philosophy classes at local universities on the topic of ethics and how we treat animals. And when I'd call up universities and speak with professors and show them the outline and offer to come give an hour talk at no cost, they sometimes said yes. And suddenly, without making any major change in my life, I was out there doing the thing I wanted to do to help animals. And then sometime after that, when a job opened up at an animal organization, by then I was an expert on the various issues, and I was actually able to get hired for that job. Now, That was a serious pay cut and led to a very rough road with lots of twists and turns. So I won't say it was easy, but for me, that was the path that led me to living a life where I've been able to, with the help of teaching jiu-jitsu for money at various times in the early years, work full time for a cause that I'm passionate about. So if you've thought it through for yourself and you know what it is you'd like to get involved with that would add more meaning to your life, then now is the time to start. Now, sometimes people feel that the problem they care about is just too big to tackle, but you should put the effort towards whatever it is you believe in without being overly attached to the outcome. You can want the outcome, of course, but take the actions you're taking because it's the right thing to do. This is true in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. I might want a particular outcome from a move that I'm initiating, and when I start to work for it, maybe I'm not going to get what I want, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't try. Once I start trying and get in motion, other opportunities open up. Or even when we're talking about just exercise, you should exercise just because it's the right thing to do. Even if you're not achieving some specific goal you had to look a certain way or reach a certain milestone, exercise is still the right thing to do for your health. So once you know what it is you want to spend more time doing that will add more meaning to your life, center yourself and set your direction and start working on it. Then schedule regular times to reevaluate to be sure you're still on track and committed to the path that you're on. And I call those course corrections. Deciding on the direction you want to head in, then moving in that direction and scheduling time for reevaluation and course corrections is the best path forward into an unknown future. And all future is unknown. What is known is where you place your effort each day using your experience and your best inner sense as a guide. And I also want you to know that one benefit of doing good work in the world is you meet really amazing people. Remember Pia and Bobby and the mystery guy named Bill and Tia from my story. And now so many other people who are my friends and coworkers over all these years. The motivational speaker Jim Rohn, who was a mentor to Tony Robbins, said, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." I believe that because of my work and the things I do, I spend time with really amazing, wonderful, smart, and compassionate people. And I think that helps me. And by the way, that's true in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, of course. If you're in a school with really fantastic fighters, then you're likely to become a better fighter yourself. And if you train with really nice and supportive people, you will be a nice and supportive training partner yourself. Now, even if you're not ready to embark on a new life-changing effort to create meaning in your life, you can still on a daily basis commit to doing small things that will create some meaning for you. Parents, for example, every day are donating a good portion of their day to keeping their kids safe and happy and healthy. If you're caring for an aging parent or working hard all day just to put food on your family's plate, that is important and meaningful work. But if that's not enough for you, maybe you can donate a little bit of your time or do something beyond your own family, something that does some good for somebody else who needs help. This is me grabbing you by the shoulders and shaking just a little bit because I want to help you live your life like it matters, because it does. And it will have more meaning if you make it matter to people and causes that need you. You're blessed to be, I hope, healthy and living someplace where you have maybe a little extra time or a little extra money. And I'm inviting you to make your blessing someone else's blessing. You'll be amazed at the meaning it adds to your life. And you don't need to be remembered for something great to make your life matter. You just need to make it matter in the way that's right for you. So here's a meaning checklist. Number 1, take a few minutes and think about if your life has the meaning you want it to have. If not, what would bring you that meaning? Do you want to see something get better in your community or in the world? What do you hate and want to help end? What would inspire you to spend some time working on or helping with that would add meaning to your life? Really, take a few minutes and write that down and think about it. Number 2, write your own obituary and see if you feel satisfied with what it says. Is there more you want to achieve? And is there some way that you want to be remembered? And number 3, if you don't already help others every day as part of your work or in some volunteering you do, think of one thing you can do in the next week to help someone outside of your own family and commit to doing it. Then see how it makes you feel. I think you're going to like it. It might be local or it might be global. And I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. Don't die with your potential intact. If there's something great inside of you, and there is something great in all of us, then let's find a way to let it out. Coming up soon, we're going to talk about ways to find that greatness and find what'll create the meaning you want in your life and make it happen. If you found this episode useful or interesting, please do subscribe to the channel on YouTube and leave comments wherever you're listening or watching, and I'll read them. Also, please like the episode and share with other people. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, if you could write a review, that would really help us spread the message. So thanks if you can do that. I'll be back next week with more lessons from the lab. And in the meantime, keep developing your strengths, your wisdom, and go out and do good in the world.